the heart. If it was upside down, this would be the base of the heart. So it kind of seems silly that the base is on the top and the apex is on the bottom, but the point is called the apex. I didn't get into a lot of detail with the valves. When the blood comes into the right atrium, and if you look at the physiology of the right atrium is kind of formed, the back portion of it. See how smooth it is? It's formed by the two great vessels coming up and down and forming the back. Where you'll see the inside surface of the front of the auricle is a little bit rough, and it's called that's pectinate muscle or cone muscle. So I don't think that's. Does she still make you know that? She doesn't make you know that. So the drop of blood comes in. Let me do some of the other features. Did we do fetal circulation? You didn't do anything with circulation. Right?
No.
There's a little depression in here called that you have to know that you have to do fossa.
Opening of coronary sinus?
Yeah, you have to do fossa ovalis. In the fetal circuit, that's this little depression here. Might show bigger and better and bigger. There's a little depression in there because in the fetal circulation, that's open because it actually goes through and avoids a good portion of the blood avoids the lungs. So that's an opening there. So there's a little depression in the right atrium, and that's called the fossa ovalis. If it was open, it would be called, when it's open, it's called the foramen ovalis, because foramen is an opening. So the drop of blood kind of comes in through here, and the valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle is called the right atrioventricular, or.
So if it's open, it's called the foramen.
Foramen. And when she'll talk about fetal circulation. In fetal circulation, that's an opening. It goes between those two atria because the blood will actually go across. So it's called the fossa, or depression, like the fossa on a bone, just a depression. So it goes through the right atrioventricular valve, or the right AV valve, also called the tricuspid valve. And that's in your lecture notes. You don't have to write all this stuff down. It's in your lab objectives. But the valves have got multiple names, and she'll accept any usually as correct. So right atrioventricular, or the tricuspid valve. That's called the tricuspid because the one on the left side is the bicuspid valve. And the way I remember that, the heart comes right side to left side, so I say tri before you bi. So tricuspid on the right side, bicuspid on the left side. So it comes in the right atrium, goes through the right atrioventricular, or the tricuspid valve, gets ejected up through to the pulmonary trunk, through what's called the semilunar valves, or what else does she call those?
Pulmonary valves?
Is that what you? Yeah, okay. Pulmonary semilunar valves, as opposed to that's on the aortic side, okay? So it goes through the pulmonary valves, out through the pulmonary trunk, the pulmonary arteries to each lung. Comes back from each lung, two main pairs of artery on either side, called the pulmonary veins, but notice they are red, they are oxygenated. Those feed into the left ventricle of the heart. So we've gone right atrium, right ventricle, to the lungs, back into the left ventricle. The valve between the left atrium and the left ventricle is called the left atrioventricular, or the bicuspid valve. I think it's also called the mitral valve. She'll accept all three of those. Gets ejected out through the left ventricle, through the aortic semilunar valve. It's there, those semilunar valve, and you see that there's three cusps. See that? Three parts. 1, 2, 3. It's behind those two front cusps in the aorta are called the coronary cusps. That's where the openings for the left and right coronary arteries are. So when when the ventricle is pumping, those valves are open and they're closing off those arteries. As soon as that valve closes, the recoil pressure in the aorta forces that blood right out into the left and right coronary arteries. When you see this on a model, the left coronary artery is only about an inch long. Well, it's kind of hard to see. It comes out right right here. So the left coronary artery comes out of the inside of the aorta. Shows it any better? It's basically these cusps right here. Here's the left coronary artery, here's the right coronary artery. So the left coronary artery goes right behind this pulmonary trunk. So not real visible, because then it splits and becomes two other arteries. So the left coronary artery is only about an inch long. It comes out back here and splits into two, circumflex artery and the left interventricular sulcus. It goes down this artery. So the left coronary artery is relatively short from the aorta to where it comes out behind the pulmonary trunk and splits into the two other arteries. It's actually right here. See where it goes out the aorta, but then we're blocked. It comes behind here. And it comes out here and it splits. So the left coronary artery is only this long. It starts at the aorta and ends right here because it splits and then it's named differently. Here, this is named anterior interventricular artery. This is called the circumflex artery that goes around. No, that's the vein. This one, see it? This is the left coronary artery that splits into these two. Right here. Circumflex, anterior interventricular.
And that's the two places in the left artery.
That's the left coronary artery splits to become those. What you see here, though, is this is where they come out. And if you can imagine these two cusps of the valve, when the left ventricle contracts, it squeezes up and those valves flop up like this. What those cusps are is hollow. So when the blood starts to flow back, they fill and they catch, and that's how they seal. Where these are connected here, we'll go back to this model. The ventricular, atrioventricular valves are connected what you see in your lab book with these fibrous chordae tendineae, and then they're attached to these muscles that again have this nipple shape, and they're called papillary muscles. You saw that papillary shape in the skin.
You mean the trabecular artery?
Well, that's the little rough things below it, but see these papillary muscles right here, and then these are connected to the chordae tendineae. The fibrous extensions of the valve are called the chordae tendineae. Maybe we can show this on the big model. Right here, these are connections to the valve. And what these do is when it stops that valve from inverting when the right atrium contracts, because it squirts the blood up under some pressure. Otherwise, these would just invert and go out. So papillary muscles attached to chordae tendineae on both left and right ventricles. These are called the papillary muscles. So features she's going to expect to know: the fossum, the fossa ovalis.
Wait, where is that? That's right.
That's a depression.
Yeah.
It's not an opening, it's just a depression. See, inside the valve. It used to be an opening in fetal circulation.
I can see it in the big one, but in the small one, the big one is right here.
Yeah,
right.
that's right here.
Okay.
The other
you
thing
see it
you
on the
have
other
here
side
in the
too.
right atrium is the opening. We didn't get to the rest of the coronary circulation. We have the arteries that go around, and all the blood collects in this coronary sulcus, and this coronary sulcus empties into the right atrium right here. So this, you'd have to know the opening here from the coronary sulcus, okay?
Okay.
So the coronary sulcus empties into
Is the back that all the veins go into. It's a big collection in the back, and it empties right here into the right atrium. So you have the inferior vena cava, the superior vena cava, and you have the opening from the coronary sulcus. Now, in reality, there are a couple other openings from other artery veins that drain the heart. Those are the three main things that enter into
So
the
this is superior vena cava?
superior, because it's above. Remember, the heart sits like this.
And then below the
Below the diaphragm, inferior vena cava. It's see, this is about kind of all you see right above the diaphragm, and they actually come together at the back. She touched on endothelium being the single layer of cells, epithelial cells in the heart and the circulatory system called endothelium. The endothelium in the heart is continuous through the whole circulatory system, venous and arterial, through capillaries and back, so that one single layer is continuous through your whole body. One single layer of cells, because that's where you get the passage of materials across that one single layer. And I'm not sure that you might be able to see that on some, we saw some single layer cells.
Are you going to be in the ASC tomorrow?
I'm tomorrow from 8 to 12. We don't have a huge heart, but we have, what's that?
No other times?
No, tomorrow I only work a half day.
Somebody else is there though, right?
I think somebody's there in the afternoon. You can go on our website and see their schedule.